Let us begin with something very simple. A single breath. Not to think, not to understand, only to feel. Tonight, you do not need to explain anything to the universe, and the universe does not ask you to understand it. Perhaps, as Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Tonight, we are not trying to grasp what lies outside. We are gently turning inward. This journey will begin with things that seem impossible. Stars made of diamond galaxies without their invisible glue regions of space where human intuition cannot reach. But we will not stop there. We will go further, into your own body, into the blood that flows quietly in the dark, into the brain that silently reshapes memory, into the fragility and wonder of consciousness, the very thing that allows you to hear these words. And when we have traveled far enough within, we will return to the sky, not to search for answers, but to look at the universe with a softer gaze. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps the universe exists because within it there was once a touch of chaos, and perhaps within you there is too. But tonight, we are not seeking chaos. We are seeking the stillness between the stars. Let your mind slow its drifting, like a boat without oars, quietly carried by the current. You do not need to follow every thought. You do not need to remember every detail. Just be here, in this room, in this breath. The universe may be vaster than anything you have ever imagined, but this moment, small quiet, is enough. And as the journey begins, remember, we are not traveling to conquer the stars. We are traveling to learn how to rest among them. Perhaps tonight we begin with a truth that feels slightly uncomfortable. The universe does not care about your intuition. In the darkness, thousands of light years away, there is a star that has cooled its core, crystallized under immense pressure into a structure nearly diamond. A star that physics allows to become a vast gemstone, drifting silently through space. We give it dry scientific names, yet its existence is anything but dry. It is a gentle reminder that reality does not need to appear reasonable to the human imagination. And elsewhere, there is a planet orbiting its star, yet its surface burns hotter than the star itself. A paradox that makes the mind want to protest. But there is no error in the equation, only a limit in intuition. Carl Sagan once wrote in The Demon-Haunted World, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And science has provided that evidence, not to persuade our emotions, but to remind us that emotion is not the standard of the cosmos. But let us slow down for a moment. Imagine a galaxy, billions of stars circling an invisible center. Scientists once believed dark matter was the glue holding it all together. And then they discovered a galaxy with almost no dark matter at all, no glue. And yet, it exists. As if the universe were whispering, the rules you believe to be universal may only apply in your small neighborhood. And at the center of our own Milky Way, there is a vast molecular cloud containing complex organic compounds, molecules, that resemble the scent of rum and raspberries. If someone could stand close enough, if they could somehow survive there, they might smell something sweet, faintly fermented, suspended in the cold vacuum. The universe is not only vast, it is strange. And here a subtle shift begins within the mind. When we face things that should not exist but do, we are compelled to admit something. Perhaps our intuition is not the center of reality. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "And if thou gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will also gaze into thee." But perhaps sometimes when we gaze into the abyss of strangeness, what gazes back is not terrifying darkness, but freedom. Freedom from the need to understand everything. Freedom from the idea that the world must follow familiar patterns. Perhaps you have felt that your life was illogical, events unfolding out of order, unexpected turns breaking your plans. But if the universe is filled with things that should not exist, and yet do, perhaps the unexpected in your life is not a system error. Perhaps it is the nature of things. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change." Our life is what our thoughts make it. The universe is change, not absolute consistency, not a tidy formula. A star can become diamond. A planet can burn hotter than its sun. A galaxy can lack the glue we believed essential. A cloud of gas can carry sweetness through the frozen void. The strange is not found in the exceptions. The strange may be the foundation. And as you lie here listening to these seeming paradoxes, perhaps your mind begins to soften. You do not need to arrange everything into logic. You do not need to force your life into symmetry. The universe never promised simplicity, yet it exists, and so do you. Perhaps the strange is not the exception. Perhaps it is the quiet pulse of reality itself. And as your breathing slows, as the distant diamond stars begin to fade in your thoughts, as that blazing planet no longer confuses you, you may allow yourself to rest in a very gentle idea. You do not need to understand the whole universe to belong within it. And you do not need to understand your whole self to be at peace. Tonight, let the strange remain strange. Let reality be wider than your intuition. Because perhaps within that vastness you will find stillness. There is an idea so gentle, and yet so quietly destabilizing. The universe has no center. We often imagine the Big Bang as a colossal explosion, a brilliant flash erupting into darkness, a focal point, a clearly defined beginning. But that is not what happened. The Big Bang was not an explosion in space. It was the expansion of space itself. There was no fireball bursting into a void, no fixed point standing still as a reference, no edge for the universe to expand into, only space stretching itself. Imagine a rubber balloon marked with tiny dots. As the balloon inflates, the dots do not travel across the surface. They simply observe that the other dots are moving farther away. If you were one of those dots, you would look around and see everything receding from you. It would feel natural to conclude, "I am at the center," but every dot could say the same thing, and none would be more correct than the others. Somewhere in the quiet of this night, as you lie still, perhaps, this idea touches something familiar. We are like that too. We perceive the world from a single vantage point ourselves. Every event, every emotion, every story seems to revolve around me, and it is natural to feel as though we are the center of what is happening. But the universe whispers something softer. There is no privileged point, no preferred position, no throne in the middle of space. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul." If the universe is a single living body, then each of us is merely a cell within it. No cell is the center, and yet every cell is necessary. And perhaps here relief begins. If there is no center, then you do not have to carry that role. You do not need to be the reference point for everything. You do not need to understand every motion around you. You do not need to hold the balance of the world together. Space continues to expand whether you worry or not. Galaxies continue to drift whether you think of them or not. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote in The Gay Science, "The world is deep, deeper than day had thought. The world is deeper than our daylight intuition. And within that depth, there is a strange calm." When Copernicus removed Earth from the center of the solar system, it was a shock. When Freud wrote, "The ego is not master in its own house," in a general introduction to psychoanalysis, it too unsettled human certainty. Yet over time, such blows did not destroy us. They made us humbler, and sometimes freer. If there is no center, then no one is being singled out. No one is being observed from a privileged position. No one must bear the burden of being the axis of reality. You are simply a dot on an inflating surface, and that is not small, for each dot experiences the entire surface from its own perspective. No dot holds the full panorama, but each dot holds a universe of its own. Tonight, as you lie here, you occupy a completely unique position in space, a coordinate that will never repeat in the entire 13.8 billion year history of the cosmos. You are not the center, but you are an irreplaceable point of view. Perhaps that is what matters. When you release the idea of being the center, something softens in your chest. Invisible pressures loosen. Large questions grow lighter. If there is no center, then nowhere is too far. Every point is equal within the slow expansion of space. And as the universe continues to unfold without a center, without edges, without privilege, you may allow yourself to do the same. Release the need to be the focal point. Release the need to be the anchor. Simply be a small dot, carried gently in the expansion of existence. The universe has no center. And perhaps that is the gift. Imagine, not that the universe is everything, but that it is only the inside of something larger. A black hole, perhaps. The idea sounds like science fiction. Yet in theoretical physics, some scientists have asked what happens inside a black hole. When matter collapses under extreme gravity, could it form a new space, a new universe separated from its parent? If so, perhaps we ourselves are inside such a process. A universe born from the collapse of another universe. A cosmos nested within a cosmos, like Russian dolls, or like the old folk tale of the world resting on a giant turtle, and beneath it, another turtle turtles all the way down. Not to claim this is true, only to allow the mind to widen a little. Recent observations from the James Webb Space Telescope have revealed something curious. Many very distant galaxies appear to rotate in a similar direction. It is not enough to conclude that the universe itself is spinning, but it is enough to make scientists ask. And in science, questions are where everything begins. Perhaps our universe has a deeper structure than we imagine. Perhaps it has an outside we will never see, or perhaps it does not. Albert Einstein wrote in a letter in 1936, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, not because it frightens us, but because it humbles us." When you consider that our universe might be only part of something larger, a subtle shift occurs within the mind. Small worries begin to shrink. Personal problems do not disappear, but they lose their absoluteness. If reality is that vast, then not everything revolves around you, and that is not a diminishment. It is a release. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness unto Death, "The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self. The self is a relationship that relates to itself." If so, perhaps the universe is also a relationship relating to itself through layers of reality. One universe giving birth to another like a thought, giving rise to a thought. And somewhere in that endless chain there is you, not at the center, not at the edge. Simply in a temporary position within a structure far larger than human imagination can grasp. Yet instead of making you feel lost, this idea may bring a gentle calm. If we are living inside something even greater, then nothing truly ends here. Not in a day, a year, or a single lifetime. The universe is not a sealed room. It may be a doorway, And as you lie still in the dark, letting these ideas drift past like slow-moving clouds, you do not need to decide what is true. You only need to remain inside the question. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "There are no facts, only interpretations." Perhaps that is how we should approach this idea, not as a final truth, but as an expanded way of seeing. Are we living inside something larger? Perhaps. And if so, then your existence, small, temporary, fragile, becomes even more wondrous. Like a small light within an endless darkness, not required to illuminate everything, only to exist. A black hole need not be a symbol of ending. It may be a gate. And if our universe is merely one chapter in a larger story, then tonight, you need only read a single paragraph. There is no need to understand the entire book. Let the question remain with you, light as a wisp of smoke, soft as a thought before sleep. Perhaps we are inside something larger. And perhaps that is not frightening. Perhaps it is simply a reminder that reality is deeper than daylight assumes. And within that depth you may let go. For however many layers of reality lie beyond, however many turtles rest beneath, right now you are here, and that is enough. There is a very quiet image. Mars. Red, barren cold once had rivers. The deep channels carved across its surface were not drawn by human imagination. They are the traces of flowing water. Perhaps there were once shallow oceans, a thicker sky, a cycle of rain. Long before Earth had trees, Mars may have known warm days. And then something changed. Its magnetic field weakened. Its atmosphere thinned. Water escaped into space. The planet became an unfinished manuscript. Venus, Earth's close sister, tells a similar story. Climate models suggest it may once have held oceans, but a runaway greenhouse effect transformed it into a molten world where the surface is hot enough to melt lead. 2 planets, 2 chances, 2 incomplete stories. And as telescopes gaze farther outward, we see thousands of exoplanets resting within the habitable zone of their stars' regions where temperatures could allow liquid water to exist. But could is not will. Life might start and then end. The thought is not pessimistic. It is simply a gentle truth. Life is not inevitable. It is a fragile possibility. Carl Sagan wrote in pale blue dot, "Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. Look again at that dot. That is home. That is us." Among billions of worlds, there may be countless places where life once began and then stopped. There may be planets where microbes once breathed in warm seas only to vanish as their star brightened. There may be biologies that never evolved into consciousness. And then there is Earth, an imperfect planet, not at the center, not special in any privileged sense, and yet alive. Forests still breathe, oceans still move, and you, a being capable of thinking about this, are listening. Here, the emotional movement begins to shift. From the vastness of distant star systems, we return to humility, not because we are small, but because we are fortunate. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive." Think of the precious privilege of being alive. Perhaps that privilege is deeper than we realize. For somewhere, perhaps millions of planets have tried and did not succeed, not because they were lesser, but because the universe does not promise sustainability. Life is a delicate balance between energy and stability, between heat and order. A slight shift in orbit, in magnetic field and atmosphere, and the entire system may slip out of equilibrium. This may sound unsettling, but at night it carries another meaning. If life can begin and then end, then this moment you are living right now is not guaranteed. It is rare. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Have you ever said yes to a single joy? O my friends, then you said yes too to all woe." To say yes to a single joy is to say yes to its whole existence, both fragile and impermanent. Earth may not be the center, but it may be one of the few worlds still continuing its story, and you are part of that story. When you think of dry Mars, of molten Venus, of unnamed exoplanets, where light was never stable enough, perhaps you feel something very gentle, a gratitude that does not shout, not a dramatic gratitude, but a quiet warmth in the chest. You are on a living planet. You are breathing within a balanced atmosphere. You are hearing these thoughts because life has not been interrupted. And when we look up at the night sky, instead of seeing only cold vastness, we may see something else. Life here is not inevitable. It is a quiet miracle. Perhaps what makes Earth special is not that it was chosen, but that it is still continuing. Like you, life may not be perfect. There may be other versions of you in other circumstances who did not have this chance. But tonight, you are here. Life might start and then end, but right now it continues. And within that continuation, you may soften. There is no need to rush toward something grand. Simply to be present on this small, breathing planet. Among countless failed worlds, you are on one that is still alive. And that is enough to rest. If we were to shrink the entire history of the universe into a book thousands of pages thick, humanity would appear only in the final line of the final page. 13.8 billion years ago, there were no cities, no language, no music, no memory, no one to ask who they were. There was only blazing plasma, then atoms, then the first stars, then galaxies. Billions of years passed in silence. And for most of that time, not a single thought existed. No one knew the universe was expanding. No one looked up and called that distant light a star. Then, very late in the story, life began. And much, much later, still consciousness appeared. And now you are listening to these words. Perhaps this is the strangest thing of all, the strange things we have passed through. Not diamond stars, not black holes, but the fact that the universe can become aware of itself through you. Carl Sagan once said in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. You are small, yes, but you are not trivial. In a vast expanse where most matter has no sensation, no memory, no question, you are a point of awareness. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Man is a rope tied between beast and overman." Humanity is a rope, not an endpoint, not a center, but a process. And that process includes knowing that you exist. As you lie in the dark, listening to your own breathing, something is happening that most of the universe will never experience. You are conscious of your own being. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness unto Death, "The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self. The self is a relation that relates to itself. You do not merely live. You know that you live. That does not make you the center of the universe, but it makes you rare. Perhaps elsewhere there are other conscious beings. Perhaps not. We do not yet know. But within the limits of what we can observe, consciousness is not common. It is like a small flame appearing in a night that has lasted billions of years. And that flame is burning within you. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." Look within. There is a fountain there. When you look within yourself, not to judge, not to repair, but simply to notice that something is experiencing, listening, feeling, you are touching something exceedingly rare. You do not need to be great to have value. You only need to be present. Consider this 13.8 billion years passed without you. And then, in a very brief moment of cosmic history, you appeared. Not to be the center, but to experience. Perhaps you have felt too small to make a difference. Yet your existence is already a difference in a space that was otherwise silent. You are a moment when matter becomes thought, a moment when atoms begin to question themselves. And as your breathing slows, as your body grows heavy with sleep, you may allow yourself to feel this without analysis. You are small, but you are a point of awareness in a sea of unconscious matter. And that is not trivial. Not because you must prove anything, not because you must achieve anything, simply because you are here. The universe endured billions of years without a single thought. And tonight, it has a thought through you. Take a deep breath. You do not need to understand the full meaning of existence. You do not need to resolve any grand question. Only recognize that in this moment you are part of the rarest thing, consciousness. And as you drift towards sleep, that consciousness will temporarily quiet like a small flame lowering its light. But it has burned, and it will burn again when you wake. In 13.8 billion years, the moment of your existence is brief, but it is unique, and sometimes unique is enough. After gazing at the sky for long enough, perhaps it is time to look downward, not toward the ground, but into your own body. Did you know that if the entire network of blood vessels within you were stretched end to end, it could exceed 100,000 kilometers? A system more intricate than any transportation network humanity has ever built, quietly operating this very moment. No noise, no blinking lights, only blood flowing like small rivers. Mars once had rivers. You have rivers now. In complete darkness, your body emits a faint light, a form of bioluminescence invisible to the naked eye. Tiny chemical reactions produce a glow dimmer than the most distant star. You are a luminous being, just very softly. In the morning, you are slightly taller than you are at night. When you lie down to rest, the discs between your vertebrae expand. When you stand all day, gravity compresses them. Your body shifts with the rotation of the planet. Every hour, roughly 200 million skin cells fall away from you. They depart like small leaves without farewell. You are not static. You are a process. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change. Everything unfolds through change. Your body is not a fixed object. It is an event happening." And as we follow this thought more deeply, a gentle shift occurs. We no longer see the body as a possession. We begin to see it as part of a larger story. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are made of star stuff. We are made of star stuff." The iron in your blood was forged in the core of an ancient star. The carbon in your cells was once cosmic dust. Before becoming you, it drifted through space. You are not merely in the universe. The universe is within you. And as that thought settles, perhaps you feel a very subtle connection. Not grand, not dramatic, but familiar. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Remain true to the earth." Perhaps remaining true to the earth is not only an ethical call, it is a reminder that you are not separate from nature. You do not stand outside it to observe. You are a rhythm within it. When your heart beats, it follows chemical laws no different from those governing the stars. When you breathe, you exchange gases with trees, living beings performing photosynthesis by the light of a star 150 million kilometers away. There is no sharp boundary between outside and inside. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness Unto Death, "The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self." The self is a relation. Perhaps your body is as well a relationship between atoms, between cells, and environment, between you and the world. You are not an isolated individual in a vast emptiness. You are a crossroads of countless processes, and this does not diminish your uniqueness. It deepens it. As you lie still listening to your breath, thousands of biological reactions unfold. The nervous system sends signals. The immune system surveys. Cells divide. An ecosystem works in silence. Like a miniature galaxy, you do not need to control it. It already knows what to do. And perhaps this is the healing part of this chapter. You do not have to carry the entirety of your existence. Most of your body operates without the intervention of consciousness. You may loosen your grip. The universe outside is expanding. The universe inside is transforming. Both continue whether you worry or not. Place your hand on your chest if you wish. Feel the steady rhythm. That is the sound of matter organizing itself into life. You are small compared to galaxies. Yet within you are trillions of cells, each a microscopic world. Perhaps the strangest thing is not that we exist within the universe, but that the universe has found a way to exist as you. And as the night deepens, as consciousness begins to quiet, you may allow yourself to rest in this thought. You do not stand outside the universe observing it. You are part of it, and it is part of you. Breathing in, breathing out, a small galaxy moving in the dark. When night falls, we often imagine that everything is shutting down. The lights dim, the sounds soften, thoughts slow. But if we look a little more closely, sleep is not a turning off. It is a transition of phase. As you drift into sleep, your brain moves through different layers. First comes non-REM brainwaves. Slow, the body releases its tension. The heartbeat settles into a deeper rhythm. Then REM, where your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids and dreams begin weaving their strange stories. But the names are not what matter. What matters is this: your brain does not switch off. It reorganizes. During the hours when you are not conscious of the world, neural connections are strengthened. Important memories are preserved. Unnecessary information is cleared away. There is even a system in the brain, the glymphatic system, that functions most effectively while you sleep. It is like a silent cleaning crew washing away the waste accumulated during the day. You rest, but within you, a subtle process unfolds. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nature does nothing in vain. Nature does nothing without purpose. Sleep is not emptiness. It is part of the cycle. Just as sunset is not the end of light, but the preparation for dawn." And as we move deeper into this thought, a gentleness begins to spread. In the daylight of life, we often feel we must do something to move forward. We must think, solve, control. But night teaches a different lesson. Sometimes letting go is how we advance. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps dreams are a kind of gentle chaos where the brain experiments, simulates, rearranges the fragments of experience. When you dream, you may fly. You may meet those who are far away. You may face fears within a world that cannot truly harm you. Some scientists call this threat simulation the mind rehearsing possibilities. But tonight, there is no need to analyze. You only need to know that when you sleep, you do not disappear. You are being renewed. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness Unto Death, "The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self." The self is a relation. Perhaps sleep is the time when that relation is gently adjusted, when consciousness steps back, and the deeper part of you restores its balance. Just as theoretical models imagine the universe expanding and contracting you, two move in cycles, waking and sleeping, focusing and releasing. In the dark, the universe does not turn off its lights. It simply shifts into another mode of being. And so do you. Carl Jung wrote in Man and His Symbols, "The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul. The dream is a small hidden door. Tonight as you sleep, perhaps you will pass through that door, not to decode anything, not to uncover some grand meaning, simply to pass through, and there is something deeply reassuring in that. You do not need to strive to become better every second. You do not need to constantly repair yourself. Even as you sleep, your body and brain are caring for you. Even as you release control, you are still growing. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine that you are not falling into darkness. You are drifting into a quiet regeneration. Your heartbeat slows. Your breathing deepens. Your brain waves soften. And in that stillness, a gentler version of you is taking shape. The universe does not extinguish its light. It shifts to another glow, and so do you. When you sleep, you do not vanish. You are rearranged, cleansed, prepared. So if your eyelids are growing heavy, if your thoughts begin to scatter, allow them. Tonight as you sleep, your brain is rebuilding you, and you do not need to do anything at all. Just breathe. When we think of superheroes, we often think of comic books. Bright costumes, extraordinary powers, battles between light and shadow. But if we step beyond the page and look into nature, we find that superpowers have existed long before humans learned to draw them. There is a small creature living underwater, the axolotl. If it loses a limb, it can grow it back. Not just skin, not just muscle, but bone nerves, blood vessels, as if its body preserves the original blueprint intact. Not magic, just biology. There is an electric eel in the murky rivers of South America. It can release a surge of electricity powerful enough to paralyze its prey. That current is not a weapon forged in a workshop. It is the result of millions of years of natural selection. And then there is the jellyfish Turritopsis dohrnii, often called immortal. When conditions turn harsh, it can revert to its larval state, beginning its life cycle again. Evolution does not write its script the way we expect. It does not seek perfection. It seeks persistence. Charles Darwin wrote in On the Origin of Species, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. Endless forms, beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved. Perhaps evolution is the strangest storyteller of all, not because it intentionally crafts the extraordinary, but because it patiently experiments across time. What we call superpowers are simply adaptations. And yet, when we look more closely, a gentle question begins to form. If nature can create such abilities, then perhaps your existence too is an extraordinary outcome. You cannot regrow a limb. You cannot discharge electricity. But you possess another capacity, consciousness. Carl Jung wrote in Man and His Symbols, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Perhaps your superpower is not found in muscle or voltage. It is found in reflection, in the ability to ask who you are, in the awareness that you are alive. Evolution did not produce the strongest creature. It produced a creature capable of self-awareness, and that is also a kind of superpower. When you think of the axolotl regenerating, of the electric eel glowing in dark water, of the jellyfish reversing its own life, you may feel a quiet wonder. But instead of making you feel small, that wonder can bring comfort. You do not need to be extraordinary by comic book standards to have value. You are the result of a long chain of biological experiments, failures, and successes stretching across millions of years. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Evolution is such a chaos. Random, restless, yet over time it gives rise to forms of life so complex they appear designed. And you are one of those forms. Perhaps you do not feel remarkable in daily life. Perhaps you feel ordinary, even insignificant. But remember, your life is part of a story longer than any myth. There is no screenwriter sitting behind the curtain, no divine hand sketching each detail. Only time and persistence. Evolution does not require an audience. Yet it has produced a being capable of looking back and telling its story. That being is you. And as the night deepens, as your body grows heavier with the approach of sleep, perhaps you can allow yourself to feel this without further analysis. You do not need to become a superhero. You are already a rare outcome of nature. Like the axolotl regenerating, like the electric eel releasing its current, you carry within you capacities that most of the universe does not possess. The ability to feel, the ability to love, the ability to listen to these words in the night. Evolution is the strangest storyteller of all, and in its long, unfolding script, you are not a side character. You are a chapter still being written. And tonight, that chapter may gently close with peaceful sleep. No cape required, no spotlight. Just breathe and let the story continue. After all that we have traveled through, diamond stars, failed worlds, rivers flowing within your own body, one thing has not changed. Human beings still look up. Long before telescopes, long before we understood gravity, we lifted our eyes to the night sky and asked, "What is out there?" Perhaps the strangest thing is not that the universe exists, but that a small creature on a small planet knows that it exists within it, and not only knows, but longs to go farther. Nuclear fusion, the reaction that powers the stars, occurs in their cores. Hydrogen fuses into helium under immense pressure, releasing enough energy to illuminate entire planetary systems. Human beings are attempting to recreate that process on Earth, not to become gods, but to learn how to touch the energy of the stars themselves. The idea of fusion-powered spacecraft sounds like science fiction, yet it begins with something simple. If we can create a source of energy powerful and sustained enough, the distances between planets may no longer be insurmountable. Interstellar travel remains a distant dream, but that dream reveals something deeper than technology. It reveals that humanity does not merely accept its place. We want to understand it. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known, not to be conquered, but to be known." This curiosity is not arrogance. It is a natural reflex of consciousness. When you know that you exist within a vast expanse, you cannot help but wonder what lies beyond the horizon. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?" Perhaps the desire to reach the stars is such a flame, a force that urges humanity beyond its former limits. But let us slow down. What matters is not whether we will set foot on another planet. What matters is the nature of the longing itself. We are the only beings, at least so far as we know, who understand that we live on a planet orbiting a star among billions of others. And instead of fear, we feel curiosity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, then endure it." Perhaps the vastness of the universe is not something to fear. It is something to accept and then to step forward within. The desire to reach outward is not a rejection of Earth. It is an expansion of the question. We build telescopes not because we are bored with the sky. We do so because we want to see more clearly. And within that clarity, there is something profoundly human. We do not only live, we seek. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in concluding unscientific postscript, "Subjectivity is truth." Perhaps this longing is an expression of subjectivity itself, consciousness trying to understand its own place. And as you lie in the dark tonight letting these thoughts drift by, you may realize that the yearning to touch the stars does not belong only to scientists. It belongs to anyone who has ever asked, "Who am I in all of this?" You do not need to design a fusion engine to participate in that journey. The moment you ask the question, you have already taken a step, and there is a quiet comfort in that. The universe may be vast, cold, indifferent, but there is one place within you where the question still burns, not like a raging fire, but like a small lamp. We wish to reach the stars not to dominate them, but to understand where we belong. And perhaps the most beautiful thing is this. Before we ever leave this planet, we have already learned how to look up. Tonight, you do not need to fly into space. Simply close your eyes and know that in one very small corner of the universe there is a consciousness thinking about itself. We are beings who know we are in the universe, and that alone is miracle enough. Let that longing soften. There is no need to reach the stars right now. It is enough to know that you can look up. And in that gaze, the universe has already drawn a little closer. We often say that the universe is built upon clear laws. 4 fundamental forces: gravity drawing planets into orbit, electromagnetism holding atoms and light in an invisible dance, the strong force binding nuclei together, the weak force allowing particles to transform, a tidy structure, an elegant model. But if you look more closely at the night sky, a quiet truth begins to emerge. Most of the universe we do not know what it is. Dark matter, dark energy. We give them names, but a name is not understanding. We know they exist because of the way galaxies rotate, because of the accelerating expansion of space. Yet their true nature remains as obscure as the darkness they represent. There may be a 5th force. Our equations may be incomplete. Albert Einstein once wrote in The World as I See It, "The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. The most incomprehensible thing is that it can be understood. And perhaps even more astonishing is this: it is not yet fully understood. And that is not a failure. It is a beginning." When you feel that humanity has reached the summit of knowledge, remember that what we know is only a thin layer on the surface of the unknown. And in that realization, a gentle humility arises. We are not at the end of the story. We are at the opening chapters. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in concluding unscientific postscript, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Science is the same. We look back at discoveries and weave them into coherent narratives, but ahead of us remains open space. And this brings a deep comfort. You do not need to have all the answers to your life. If the universe itself still holds undiscovered forces, if most of its matter and energy lie beyond our comprehension, then the ambiguity in your own life is not abnormal. It is woven into reality. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster." Perhaps the pursuit of knowledge also requires balance. We seek understanding, but not at the cost of losing softness before the unknown. The 4 fundamental forces operate within every cell of your body. Gravity holds you to the earth. Electromagnetism allows neural signals to move across your brain. The strong and weak forces unfold deep within atomic nuclei. And yet, beyond them there are things we have not grasped, and this makes the universe more alive. If everything were fully explained, if no questions remained, perhaps the universe would feel static. But it is not. It continues to expand. It continues to change. It continues to withhold its mysteries. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not." Perhaps the incompleteness of knowledge is something we can endure. We do not need to resolve it tonight. As you lie in the darkness, as your breathing grows steady, you may allow yourself to feel that not everything must be fully understood. There are forces at work you cannot see. There are stories unfolding that you do not yet know. And this does not make you lost. It makes you part of a journey. We are still at the beginning of the story, not only of the universe, but of ourselves. Perhaps one day, what we call dark matter will be explained. Perhaps a new force will be discovered. Perhaps reality will be described by a more elegant equation. But tonight, you do not need to wait for the final chapter. You may rest within the introduction. For if reality is unfinished, if the story is still being written, then so are you. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to know everything. Only to be present in the opening chapter of a story far longer than we can imagine. And in the quiet darkness, you may allow yourself a small smile. We are still at the beginning of the story, and that is something very beautiful. Slow down. After all the questions, the possibilities, the hypotheses about a fifth force and deeper layers of reality, perhaps we do not need to go any farther tonight. Out there, galaxies are still drifting. They do not know that we are thinking about them. They do not know that we have named them, measured their distances, and debated their structures. They simply drift. Stars are still burning in their cores. Nuclear fusion continues, hydrogen merging into helium, releasing energy that has traveled millions of light years just to touch the eyes of an observer. Light continues its journey without needing an audience. The space between galaxies continues to expand. Distances increase a little more slowly, steadily, whether or not you think about dark energy. The universe does not require your understanding in order to continue. And this is not exclusion. It is liberation. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You do not control the expansion of space. You do not direct the orbit of planets. You do not decide when a star will fade. But you can choose how you breathe in this moment." When we realize that the universe continues regardless of our comprehension, an invisible pressure begins to dissolve. We do not need to keep up with every discovery. We do not need to decode the entire structure of reality. We do not need to have answers for every question, because even when we are silent, everything is still unfolding. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness unto Death, "The self is a relation which relates itself to its own self." Perhaps in a universe this vast, what matters is not grasping the whole of it, but tending to that relation within yourself. Galaxies continue to turn. Stars continue to burn. The atoms in your body vibrate according to the same laws that govern the heart of the sun. You do not need to keep them running. They already know how to continue. There is a deep comfort in this. Your life may hold unanswered questions. You may be searching for meaning, direction, clarity. But like the universe, not everything must be understood immediately in order to move forward. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Become who you are. Become who you are." Not the answer to every mystery. Simply yourself in the process of unfolding. As you lie in the dark, as your heartbeat slows and your breath steadies, you may sense this parallel movement. Out there, space continues to widen. In here, your lungs continue to rise and fall. Out there, ancient starlight is still traveling. In here, neural signals are still passing through your brain. There is no true separation between these motions, but there is also no demand from the universe that you must fully understand them. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. If that is so, then as the universe continues, so do you. Without excessive effort, without needing to prove anything. Just as a galaxy does not require observation to exist, you do not need to be fully understood to have value." And in this realization, the rhythm begins to slow. No more rushing questions, no more expanding hypotheses. Only movement, slow, steady, quiet. The universe does not stop when you fall asleep, nor does it require you to remain awake to keep it turning, so you may allow yourself to soften. Not to abandon curiosity, but to release the pressure to understand everything. Out there, everything continues to expand, and in this moment, you may simply be part of that motion. No need to keep pace with it, no need to explain it. Just be here, in this room, in this gentle darkness, in this steady breath. The universe continues, and so do you, very slowly, very softly. There comes a moment in this journey when all the questions begin to soften, not because we have found every answer, but because we realize we do not need to have them all. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to grasp the entire structure of the universe to deserve your place within it. You do not need to decode dark matter to unify the fundamental forces into a single perfect equation, or to know what lies beyond the edge of space. The universe does not require you to pass an exam in order to be here. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You have power over your mind, not over external events. The expansion of space is not in your hands. The motion of galaxies does not await your consent. The existence of unknown forces does not depend on your understanding, but you can choose how you are present." And when we speak of presence, we do not mean something grand, not a mystical enlightenment, simply the simplicity of being here, breathing in, breathing out. A steady heartbeat. Perhaps throughout your life you have been taught that knowledge is power, and in some ways that is true. But there is another kind of strength, the strength of acceptance. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness unto Death, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world. Sometimes, in trying to understand too much, we lose sight of where we are. We become entangled in endless questions and forget the simplicity of this moment. You do not need to understand everything to have value. You do not need to control the universe to have peace." Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Perhaps your why is not to explain all of reality. Perhaps it is simply to experience it." Carl Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. You are not the totality of events unfolding in the universe. You are the way you choose to exist within them. And tonight that choice can be very simple. Choose to loosen your grip. Choose to slow your breath. Choose not to seek one more answer. The universe continues whether you understand it or not. So why carry that pressure into sleep? Imagine setting down each question the way you would place small stones from your pocket onto a table, not discarding them, just setting them down for now. You are not abandoning curiosity. You are allowing it to rest. Marcus Aurelius also wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Perhaps peace does not come from comprehending the entire universe. It comes from recognizing that you do not need to. You are allowed not to know. You are allowed not to control. You are allowed simply to be a breathing being in the gentle darkness of night. The vast universe does not demand that you prove yourself worthy of it. It simply unfolds quietly, and you may unfold in your own way. No spotlight required, no final explanations needed. Just presence. As you lie still, as your body grows heavier and your thoughts blur at the edges, let incompleteness become a companion rather than a threat. You do not need to understand everything, and within that admission there is a spaciousness light as the night sky. There you do not need to solve anything, only to be here, only to breathe, and let the universe continue without needing you to control it. And now, no need for another concept, no need for another star, another force, another hypothesis. Only you are small. Small compared to galaxies stretching across hundreds of thousands of light years. Small compared to the 13.8 billion years that have already passed. Small compared to regions of space where light itself has not yet finished its journey. But small does not mean meaningless. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself. If the universe can know itself through you, then your existence is not an unnecessary detail. You are part of this structure, not the center, not a privileged position, but a small node within a vast network. And that is enough." Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Accept the things to which fate binds you. You are bound to a planet orbiting an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy. There is nothing grand in that description, and yet within that very ordinariness there is something rare. You are alive. You do not need to be perfect to belong to this universe. Stars are not perfect. They explode, collapse, and turn to dust. Planets are not perfect. They lose atmospheres, shift their orbits. Galaxies are not perfect. They collide and restructure themselves. So, why must you be perfect? Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "Remain true to the earth." Perhaps to remain true to the earth is simply to accept that you are part of a process, not a finished product. Your breathing slows. There is nothing to prove. No ideal version you must become right now. You do not have to repair every part of yourself before you are allowed to rest. The universe does not require you to be worthy of it. It simply continues, and so do you. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in The Sickness Unto Death, "To be oneself is the greatest accomplishment. To be yourself is already an accomplishment. Not a better version, not a compared version, just you in this moment. Tonight, you do not need to understand anything more. You do not need to expand another idea. Simply recognize that in this vast universe you are breathing, and that breath is enough. Inhale, exhale. A small being imperfect, not all-powerful, but not meaningless. You are part of this structure, and as thoughts begin to blur, as the night deepens just a little more, you may allow yourself to dissolve into this simple truth. No demands, no judgment, only presence, very gently. And now, there is nothing more that needs to be expanded. Imagine a distant star, its light slowly shifting toward red, a sign that the space between you and it is quietly stretching. No sound, no drama. Only distance increasing very slowly. Your heartbeat slows in the same way. One beat, then another. Like the universe, your body does not hurry. It does not need to arrive anywhere. It simply continues. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not. Everything that happens is either bearable or it is not. And tonight's sleep is something that can be welcomed, not as a retreat, but as part of a cycle." Carl Sagan once said in Cosmos, "The cosmos is within us. If the universe is within you, then when you close your eyes, it does not disappear. It simply softens." Heartbeat to expansion, breath to widening space. The voice slows as well. No need for another idea. No need for another question. Only quiet spreading outward like the faint light of a distant star. Night is not the end of the journey. It is the pause between two beats, and in that pause you do not need to do anything at all. The universe continues, and so do you.